It's Tuesday, April 26th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable, not just the podcast, as was previously mentioned. I was in error when I said that. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and we're going very old school with this Insiders Roundtable. It's just myself. My co-host has decided to take the evening off, but everything, so that really makes it, it's just me going solo. Well, me and Serge, obviously. The only thing we would need to be in is Studio B, Serge, but we're in Studio BT. It's almost the same, a professional studio or a garage, but other than that, it's gonna be fun. We've got a whole host of people. We got someone calling in. We got some people here in person. But before we get to any of that, I want to just go and thank Lumpin' Radio for having us on once again. WLPN 105.5 FM, WLPN in Chicago. Thanks for having us, guys. Thanks for everyone over there who deals with us and has been dealing with us for, years and years now. I don't even want to think about how long it's been going on for, but thank you to all those folks, and thanks to everyone who's been listening and really reaching out quite a bit lately. So a lot of letters, electronic and handwritten. I think we're going to get to one of each in this letter. In this episode, and we got a ton of beer. So we'll try to talk about what we've got going on, but even Serge was kind of wide-eyed at all the delights we have. And I usually don't get too excited about I don't know. I'm fairly jaded, but I'm excited. So without further ado, I think we're going to get right into it. We're going to introduce the guests, as always, in order of seniority. Seniority being how many times you've been on the show before, the only seniority that I care about. And we'll take it away. It's going to be pretty easy. So I don't have my co-host, but I've got essentially a co-host here because I've got Nostradouglas himself, the beer aficionado, the beer cruncher. Any other nom de beer, Doug?
No, that covers it.
Okay, Doug Veliky, how are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, man. What's been new with you? I saw you traveling with the kids.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to mention is, last time I was on, I kind of teased a blog post that I dusted off my blog, and we just kind of had an inkling for something I wanted to write. And it was about the return of cask beer, at least in Chicago. And what I didn't mention was, as I was like halfway done with writing that post, I was looking at Twitter and I saw like a post from Jeff Allworth, who's won Best Blogger in the world this past year. And it was, I'm probably going to misquote this, but it was something like why cask ale will never catch on in the U.S. As I'm halfway through writing a post about why cask ale is about to catch fire. And I was like, uh-oh. And, but just, kind of went with it anyway. And ever since writing that, through nothing to do with me writing that, but I can't not flick through my Instagram feed once without seeing a new brewery doing a Firkin Friday that I've never seen do it before. So it's exciting, and credit to you for keeping the conversation going on here.
Nostradouglas. Really, I think the credit is.
It was your 2022.
Just Miles, I think.
Yeah, just Miles is
mostly he's the one who kind of been driving it behind the scenes. Sure. A little strong arm tactics, I believe, to threatening people.
Yeah. Running a lot of contests to tag 3 other friends and gain followers.
Yeah, I think he reads your blog post about how to game the system. He was reading all that. He must have been.
He went through the back catalog.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what you are, man. You're Nostradouglas, But yeah, well done with that one. I will say, the casks that we've been having on for the past couple months move as fast as any beer that we put on, which is surprising. I think people are ready for something different. I think you made a very good point in your blog post about, I guess partially the novelty, but also, what did you call it? Like, it's an occasion, kind of. It's an
experience.
Yeah, an experience. Yeah. When you have a cask in, and
especially if you connect it to a day, and not that Friday's not the only day, but it can be like a day that people associate with the day you'd want to have that.
Right. Yeah. Go in there, you can see what's on cask or something like that. Yeah, I've once you've started mentioning it to me, like, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Mike's been doing the same thing, and I've been noticing it as well. And you just see, more and more people promoting their beer engines or their cask, their gravity pour casks and stuff like that. So, you'll have to let us know when the next big thing is cask where it's at for probably the next decade is going to dominate the conversation.
I'm kicking around a few things, but yeah, right now it's all cask all the time. I don't want to get in the way of that.
Okay, cool. Well, awesome. Thanks for coming on. Next guest, it's first time in a long time. We've got Mr. Andy Carter. Now, how are you, Andy? What's up? You're zooming in.
I'm awesome. Thank you
Sound
for
better
having
than
me.
I do, which is not okay.
And things are good out here. I'm in California, so I just want to, have to obviously preface I'm long on Dustcoin, I'm long on RevCoin. I got to say that up front. But yeah, things are good. I have for those. It's been, I don't know how long it's been, 3, 4, 5 years. I've been a home brewer. I've been home brewer for about 12 years. I'm on a few other podcasts. Brewlosophy, it's a big homebrew blog. Homebrew Experiments. There's the Full Pint, which is a LA based kind of media for beer, and I run a homebrew festival called the Southern Colorado Homebrewers Festival, and fortuitously that event happens in about 3 days, so down in Southern California. I've been planning it. We haven't had one in about 3 years, so we are very, very happy to put this on. So
very cool. Are you bringing anything to the event, or are you just kind of putting it on?
So, as fate would have it, I missed a canning date. I had a canning slot with someone to try to can some homebrew for a different event, and I missed it. Just blew past me. So I'll take half of that beer. I made a saison. I have in front of me right now. I used to make this like 10 years ago. It was like I was really into saisons when I started homebrewing because I was like, well, I can't buy this, so I might as well make it. Mm-hmm. So it's a saison with like rosemary and lemon peel and stuff, and it's just fantastic. And I've hopped it up a bit. It's got some fancy hops in it now, but
You're in Southern California. I mean, it only makes sense.
Yeah, it's basically a West Coast saison.
Is it technically legal? Are you allowed to do it if you don't hop it?
Oh yeah. Actually, the TTB actually wants it to be at least 30 IBUs. That's actually like in the code. So
I figured. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Well, thanks for coming on, and I'm glad that you're along on Dustcoin and are still making the time for us, even though you could obviously have retired by now.
Well, I could have retired. I could have moved to Belgium. I sold all my Dustcoin, moved to Belgium.
Bought out Elon Musk for Twitter.
I mean, it was close. I can't get into it. I know there's SEC stuff I can't talk about, but it's possible. And but the Dustcoin, I can buy a really nice warehouse in the Sun Valley and just retire on making citrus style lambics. But you didn't hear from me. So.
That's cool. I'm looking forward to what you're putting out. Sounds very traditional. Methode traditionnel or something like that. Awesome. Well, that's thanks for zooming in. It's been too long. It's nice to have you, and thanks for Doug for reminding me to have you on. So there you are. And then I have two more guests that are first time guests, and they don't know this, and they're probably afraid because I think I'm going to throw them a curveball. But so first-time guests introduce themselves. So I've got Lane and Beth from Roaring Table. I don't know who wants to go first, but could you just introduce yourselves and let everyone know who you are?
Well, I'm Lane, and I brew the beer at Roaring Table, which is a brewery in Lake Zurich, Illinois, which is a northwest suburb of Chicago. And we've been around for just shy of 5 years. And sorry, I don't do podcasts very often. I think this is my second podcast. I did one with Joe Bob.
Okay.
So and I'm old, and
And you brew beer.
and I brew beer. That's much
good.
That covers it pretty
That's
much.
good. I think that's all. You got the basics
Yep.
covered. And how about you, Beth?
I'm Lane's wife. My name's Beth May, and I'm the co-owner of Roaring Table, and I do everything there except for brew beer.
Got
I
it.
design the labels, I do
that's
the
true.
accounting,
That's true.
I boss people around.
Oh, good. Good. That's an important thing to be able to do.
I'm very good at
Boss people
that.
around. Yeah. So,
Sorry,
Thanks for
we're not
coming
as
on.
exciting as you guys are.
no, don't say that. I will say that I would say you guys and art history have gotten the staff of the Beer Temple as excited about a new brewery as I can remember in past couple of years. So, can you describe a little bit about the beers that you guys make, or if you have any kind of philosophy? This isn't going to be all. I'm not going to be grilling you the entire time, but that's a softball question.
Yeah, we
mean,
should
come
be able
on.
to
Well,
answer. We should be able
we've
to answer that.
What's
a
beer?
Can I tell the
Oh,
story about
please.
that quickly? So
Yes.
I don't know if you guys know, but Lane and Greg used to work together.
Greg was my
Yeah,
boss for a
Greg
long time.
from Art History was Lane's boss for 9 years, and then we opened.
It felt like 15 or 16 years.
Okay.
We opened in 2017, and then they opened, I think, right in the midst of the pandemic. Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's funny because just when we were standing out there before we came
In the bottle shop.
in the bottle shop, a gentleman came up and he bought a 4-pack of Art History and a 4-pack of Roaring Table. And he didn't know. And I was like,
Yeah.
hey, that's so neat.
Yeah, we hype you guys. Yeah, I'm sure Sam, who was at the shop, has probably told them that, what are you guys into? And he pointed out that. So,
That's good.
yeah. Oh, it's no, we're fans, and it's interesting. I think we'll probably get into it a little bit, but I think you guys do a wide variety of
a lot.
styles,
That's
lot.
that's
which I think is kind of sets you apart.
that's our shtick. We wanted to do almost everything because that was how I like to be as a home brewer. I enjoyed, going from one thing to the next, and also, having a big supply of beer that met the mood that I was in, and because I'm kind of unstable, my mood changes all the time, and so
I can't wait.
Yeah,
for later.
right, exactly. So, having lots of different flavors and beers suits me very much, and I wanted to do that. I did not ever want to get pigeonholed into a group of a few beers. So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. We've got a bunch of stuff to get into, but first, what we always do is talk about beers that we're either excited to try or that we've had recently that we enjoyed. It's a shame, Serge, you don't go on mic because I'm sure you have some good ones. Serge was just on the Pacific Northwest and apparently had some bangers out there. So he'll have to tell us, and I'll relay it to you maybe next week, guys. Oh, and before I forget, I was mentioning I was getting a lot of letters, and people were saying, I don't know, something about the last episode, something about the audio quality or something like that. I don't know what they're talking about. So obviously there's something wrong with your MP3 player. If I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
You should update the Zune firmware. Make sure the Zune firmware is good to go. And
Yeah. If there's any like extended pauses or anything like that, yeah. Oh, I also forgot where Mike is. I didn't mention. He is at a concert, but I didn't mention where. He's at a Gallagher concert. He's actually touring now, and Mike is front row. He's in the splash zone. So good luck, Mike, on that one. He's going to come back with a shirt on, apparently. Anyway, now that we're done with all those outside jokes, we're going to talk about beers that we've had that we're excited about, or that we had, or excited to try, or that we've had recently and really liked. I will go first. I've only done this a few times, and Lane and Beth are going to think I'm kissing up to them, but
Uh-oh.
there's
Please-
a beer
please do.
right here that I am excited to try, which just says FG on the cap, and it doesn't have any labels, which means it's either really bad homebrew or something special. So this is your kind of homage to Orval beer, or what's this beer?
Yeah, so
'Cause I'm excited to try it. That's why I'm mentioning
So
it.
the guys at Afterthought,
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike
Matt.
and Matt, and they invited us to participate in an Orval day that was going to be, as always, in March, apparently, but it was moved back till May, so it's in a couple of 3 weeks. But we brewed a Belgian pale ale, and then we in January we bottled that with the traditional Brett B yeast strain, and so it's had plenty of time to do its thing, and at least there ought to be some Brett character in there. So I think it's 5.9%, so it might be a little bit lighter than the Orval is, but Orval is such a just such an outstanding and kind of bedrock beer, right? So
Taking a pretty strong stance there.
yeah, I think so. I mean,
No, kidding.
right? Everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
And irony doesn't even work on me because I don't even know what
Got it.
what the kids are thinking these days. So
Got it.
But so yeah, we did that.
Have you
and
seen my
hopefully-
hairline? You're calling.
Yeah, but
Thank you for the kids.
yeah, I do Santa Claus at the mall on the weekends
Yeah.
in the wintertime. So, but yeah, that's what that is.
We have our first Orval clone in the tanks right now. We've ever done at Rev at our brew pub.
Really? I think one of the most cloned, or a beer that has inspired perhaps the most. I mean, I don't know. Probably there's a hazy now that's surpassed it. But
Wait, not Pliny the Elder? Pliny the Elder.
I think Pliny, but I think Orval has a ton.
Orval is
as well.
definitely, yeah, for
It's
sure.
up there. It's up there. There's so many beers that pale ales that have anything basically with Brett. And I think probably in the past 5 years that has changed, but I'd say pre 5 years, like there was just so many beers that were big beers in themselves, and then they were essentially inspired by Orval. But yeah, Pliny. I mean, would you say that every double IPA is essentially was inspired by Pliny? I mean, that's not fair.
I guess it's like I just comment from like a homebrew perspective. Like I think a lot of professional breweries look up a lot to Orval as like a craft beer, as like something you can point to, and that's not just it's a Belgian quad or something strong, right? It has this very specific character, right?
Right. It's Orval.
And then, but like Pliny is like, well, if you're getting into beer and getting homebrewing, like, I got to make a double IPA, and what double IPA? Well, I got to make Pliny because all my friends want it or something. And I mean, this is all pre 5 years, like you said. So what's the hazy? I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, but like hazy IPA clearly dominates any type of clone. When I say clone, I mean homebrew clone. So
he's using air quotes for those of you out there.
It's very hard to tell my sarcasm as well.
So now I think when the new homebrewers start up, they're just getting into it. They're like, I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to, I've got to make a stout. So let me go to the candy shop. Let me pick up some Snickers.
First, I mean, I'm gonna make. I got to make a pastry seltzer. Step one. Got to start out with pastry seltzer.
Exactly. Got to start from square one and then build up.
Base roots.
Got to walk before you run. You
get
pastry
no
seltzer.
dark milds, no dark milds, no amber ales, pastry seltzers, and then like triple hazy IPAs. Like, let's just pick the two hardest things you could do successfully the first time. Let's just start there.
Yeah. Hey, man. I mean, as long as you've got, just you really got to dial in your extracts, and you'll get there. Just keep trying. Use an eyedropper, And they say you can always add more. I just say dump the thing in, and then if it's too strong, dump more in. That's what I
just
say.
Dump more in.
Yeah, just dump in more. It'll get better. There's some sort of ratio that I think the Beer Cruncher put out one time where it was like milliliters of extract to bottle cap ratio, and it was fascinating stuff. It was like kind of moneyballing beer.
It was a straight line. R squared equals 1. Straight line.
Exactly. Exponential bottle caps. Theoretical. It's like IBUs. At some point, it becomes theoretical only. This is theoretically
but somehow
a
they can
million
still
bottle
taste-
cap beer.
But somehow they can still taste it. They can still taste it.
Exactly. See, you get it, Andy. That's what I like
I'm
about
dialed
you.
in. I'm dialed in.
All right, so I've hogged quite a bit of time on the beer that I'm excited to have, which I am now having, by the way. There's no name for this beer yet, or
There is.
Yes.
I don't remember what it was. He told me the other day.
FG, perhaps?
It's Fountain of Gold.
There you go. There you go.
It's an Orval reference, if you know Orval.
It's supposed to have a trout on the label.
there's gonna
That's
be
all I remember.
There's going to be a fish,
Maybe.
which, so it's not really a reference as much as we're directly copying their label, basically.
What's like the state fish of Illinois? Maybe use that fish
Yeah.
instead of like a ring.
It's
it
like
could be something different.
a diseased carp.
Exactly. Have a diseased carp. Exactly. Well, it's very nice.
I haven't had it yet, so I hope it's good. Those have been bottle conditioning for quite a while, so...
I've got the dump bucket. So.
Okay, yeah.
No, it's great. It's got really nice.
Is there some Brett?
character.
You get some Brett?
for sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Definitely. It's in the it's thinned out the body quite a bit too.
Okay.
Who wants to go next with the beers that we've
I can
got?
go next. I have a kind of serendipitous story. I was out in Disneyland with the kids and my wife for spring break, I think 2 weeks ago, and had no real brewery plans. Just with little kids, I was just like not going to push it, and not, had no expectations of visiting any breweries. We rent a car one day, and we're planning to go out to Huntington Beach. And the rental car guy's like, "Where are you going?" I told him. He's like, "Oh, if you have little kids and want to avoid crowds and just not have to deal with like parking and stuff," he's like, "Go to this beach. It's part of Huntington Beach, but it's a little up or maybe a little down." And I was like, "Great, done." And I just went there instead. As we're finishing up there, my wife like goes in Yelp and like finds a sandwich place in this little plaza across the street, very unassuming. And as we're pulling in, I see what's clearly a little brewery. And I was like, "Oh, hello." And so we go in the sandwich place, and I'm just eyeing this place down. I pull up my phone. I'm like, "What is this?" I start looking, and I just see like, I don't know, at least 8 West Coast IPA things that they're calling West Coast IPA. And I'm like, "What is this? I've never seen that." It's like what people make fun of breweries for being all hazy IPAs. Right. It was that for West Coast IPAs, and I was like, "I've never seen this before." I was like, "I got to go." And I
in Rome,
and the kids were being so bad, and it was like the worst place to bring kids. So the whole time I'm like eating my sandwich at this place, like in this little L Plaza, I'm like eyeing down this brewery, and my wife knows what's up, and she's like, and the kids, they were just like not in a condition where I could bring them in the brewery. She's like, "Just go in, but be quick." And so I go in and just like had a few little tasters, and then they had plenty of to-go beer, so I just like brought some 4-packs home to take back. But it was awesome. The beers were great. They were very like contemporary, maybe not what we think of as like classic West Coast IPA, but they were really exciting beers and each different in their own way. And I was just like in West Coast IPA heaven that I didn't realize existed. And the brewery's called Rip Brewing. And sure enough, this morning I boot up, just on my quick drive to the brewery, I fired up a new Full Pint podcast episode, and Andy, who's on the show, is on it. And within a few minutes of the episode starting, all they're talking about is this brewery, Rip Brewing, that I just happened to see in a plaza. And then Andy's on the show tonight. And I'm just like, what are the odds that one brewery I stumbled upon, which I'm so excited about, the first beer podcast I listened to on since they're talking about it, and that guy is coming on the podcast I'm going on tonight. It's just like, that's kind of funny.
That's cool.
So Rip Brewing, if you're ever in Huntington Beach, California, it was awesome.
That's great. That's amazing. I love those kind of serendipitous moments where you just see something and you try it and it totally blows your expectations. Serge and I were just talking about it because he was in just, I guess, right in the very, very northwest corner of the country, and you said you just were driving by and saw a brewery. Oh my gosh, he's got a receipt with him, an itemized receipt. Oh, okay, that's how much you spent. It is called the North Fork, and he just decided to pull over, and I think was astounded at the breadth of styles that were offered, and kind of thoughtful, from maybe some Belgian stuff, some classic Belgian, some fruited Belgian, some English styles, some American styles, and they were all like really good. And that is one thing that for all the grief that I give, the beer industry and stuff like that. That's one thing that you would not have been able to do, maybe even like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Is just like, there's a random brewery, I'm going to go in there and just it's having all these like styles that are exceptional, unless you happen to, walk into like Russian River or something like that and don't know about it or something like that. But that's great. I mean, those are the best experiences as far as I'm concerned.
And I brought my last can of one of them, so
nice,
hidden in there somewhere.
Cool, awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. All right, who's next?
I can talk a little bit. So beers had, we're, like I mentioned, we have a festival this coming weekend. So I bring some beers. Managing it, I tend not to brew as much, but I got the Saison I'm really excited for. But because I'll see like 35 homebrew clubs right now, it's like something like 1,000, coming 1,200 people. So there's like, I judge beers throughout the year, and sometimes I'm like, wow, this was really good. Like I really think like, wow, this is a really good beer, and I like make a little mental note or write the person's name down and say I had to find you. So I'm gonna go find those people at the event and say like, hey, what are you pouring right now, so I can go try it. So it's this kind of weird way of finding beers. You don't go find it on the shelf or at a bar. You go and judge their beer and say, wow, this is just fantastic. And so I got my list. The other thing I'll be looking forward to is a couple clubs. So what we do is every club gets a booth, but if you have more beer or you're trying to do something a little different, you can get a second booth. And so some clubs have barrel-aged beer tents or just more beer, but one does only lambics or lambic style, goose style. So Société du Lambic will have an only Lambic Goose Wild booth, and I'm really excited for that because my friend of mine, his name is also Andy, and Andy also, we've collaborated on blends, and so he'll have that. So really, I'm just looking forward to trying all that because I haven't seen these people in a long time, and I'm just really pumped. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty fun tasting experience for the weekend.
It's Friday is when it is, or Saturday?
It's Friday and Saturday. So we're obviously on tape delay, but yeah, Friday and Saturday. So Friday night's a pro pour. We invite like 6 pro breweries.
It'll be like 3 weeks ago by the time they hear it.
Exactly. So, but you can come next year. We'll be closer to next year, going next year than this year. But yeah, it's Friday night's only pro breweries, or we invite a few pro breweries, and then Saturday it's all day, 11 to 9, just in and out like a festival kind of thing. So.
It's amazing. How many beers are you going to be pouring? How many home brews?
We have a historian. He comes every year and he counts, and it's 5. I forgot the number. I mean, it's hundreds of different
brews. Oh, okay.
5 different brands. Yeah, 5 different brands, 5,000 gallons.
And he says there's 5 of them, and I believe him.
There's 5. Yeah, brown, amber, mild.
This is happening in your garage, correct?
Yeah, exactly. In my garage, yeah. ABC licensed. It'd be like, I want to say, it means hundreds of different beers. I mean, every club, there's all shapes and sizes, which is cool, there's clubs that are only a couple people, and so they show up, and there's clubs that are, hundreds of people, and they'll have 40 different taps. They'll rotate throughout the day. I mean, I don't think this is a galloping shock. There's not every beer is amazing, right? There's a lot of, I'll say stinkers. Let's be clear, stinkers. But you're also going to have some of the best beer. I will say, if I looked at like the best beers I've ever had, the top 5, like 2 or 3 is the home brews. They're not commercial beers. So, I mean, these guys, everyone there, making beer there knows what they're doing. They take it very seriously. So,
yep. I mean, the peaks and the valleys are extreme when you go to homebrew, but you can get some stuff that's great. And you can get some like amazing examples of like, the best foreign stout I've ever had was in a homebrew competition or something like that. So it's really cool. Well, that sounds exciting for sure.
Yep. Yeah. I'm very excited.
All right. You guys are up. What's up?
Oh.
I think you should go next.
Okay,
Beth.
I'll go
You
next.
keep telling.
I told you. I boss people around. I don't know you guys well enough, so I won't boss you around yet.
I'll take advantage of that.
Yeah.
That's my job.
This past weekend, we went to Flesk Brewing in Barrington, and friends of ours, Ian and then Mikey, who actually works at Roaring Table, they have started a blendery?
A brewery
blendery. And they're doing like small batch wilds and saisons, and they had 2 beers they like launched at Flesk. They're contracting out of Flesk, and they had one that I just really loved. I think it was called Spontané. Well, the brewery's called Sundial Brewing, and they have because Flesk has a the brew pub license, so they can do like small, like I think they can only do 200 barrels. But anyway, the beer was phenomenal. It was really complex. It was made with peaches.
It's spontaneous, right?
Spontaneous fermented.
Yeah. Which was so like a year in the cask after a night out by the train tracks, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if you've ever been to Cantillon, it's like there's like bus fumes coming into those.
I have not.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, and
it's not in a farm.
I think they bought the peaches off the side of the road. It's just really, and Diana's involved as well, who's Ian's fiance, and they're good people, and they're making good beer, and so we're excited about it.
Awesome.
And it was really, really phenomenal.
Sundial.
All
right. Out the gate with a spontaneous year-old beer. Love it.
Right?
Just hit the ground running. Go for it.
And they had a table beer.
Yep.
There you are. I mean, you've got both ends of the spectrum right there. How about you, Lane?
So I thought about this because I saw that we had some prep for this. So I was going to obviously talk about Gravitas, which is Greg's 12 Plato dark Czech lager, I think, right?
At Art History.
Yes, at Art History. And, the last batch he brought over, we have cigars together on Fridays on occasion. And
In our garage.
And I thought it was...
Should record a podcast.
Yeah, right? Right? Now
It
that
would
I
be
know how
like
to
the
do
two
it.
old Muppets, like that sit up in the, that's
exactly.
exactly what the podcast would be like.
Yeah, with less words, though. Greg's a man of few words, and I kind of flip and flop a bit. But that was one of my favorite beers of the budding spring, I think. Just such a delicious beer. I think he's really got that one down. So
The Gravitas.
Gravitas.
Yeah. Which one
I think that is that, or what is the 12 Plato Czech lager?
Oh, the big one. Yeah.
Maybe it's not a dark lager. See, this is where I
No,
start
it's not
to,
the dark. And
it's just
all the tosses
yeah.
I forget. So you might be right. I don't
Levitas.
Levitas is the 10 Plato light lager.
Yeah,
So maybe it's
you've lost me.
it's just a Czech
Maybe
lager.
it's just toss. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. Anyhow, it's good. Whether it's not light, it might be light. But
The big one.
do you mind if I
12 Plato.
can I have a bonus point?
Absolutely.
Because so I had two experiences this past weekend that were just pretty interesting. One was we were over at there's this guy named Tyson who's a home brewer who makes really good home brew, and he's got a brand called Fire Hop, and we're doing a collaboration because he's kind of the pastry stout guy. And we're trying to learn. Nice. I resisted that for a long time, but now we're trying to learn it. I'm seeing it as a challenge.
Well, I'm drinking right now. I mean, I'm drinking a robust porter that you guys did a collabo with microphones. So obviously you are. I mean, you're trying to learn.
It's not a pastry
trying to learn
thing.
from the
though.
masters.
This so all right. So two things. I just maybe this is normal, and I don't get things. But so he brought a few bottles of beer that are like fancy pants bottles of pastry stouts, and we had them, and I said, oh yeah, this isn't as sticky as I thought it would be, or because I had some that where I just feel like my mouth is glued shut. But,
Yeah.
So he said, well, as a learning experience, let's put it in the hydrometer and see what the gravity is, whatever the final gravity
And
is.
did the hydrometer like just shoot out and hit the ceiling?
So it's 25 Plato finishing gravity for this beer.
Finishing gravity.
In the bottle at least, for sale to the public,
Yeah,
25
yeah.
Plato.
Cool.
And so my head is just like wobbly, right? And so then we go over to Phase 3 to do some more research because they apparently make some of these stouts as well. I don't think any of their beers finished nearly as high as that.
Okay.
But we met a couple who had driven all the way from Virginia just to come to they were releasing some special beers.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting around drinking sips of their stouts and also washing it down with their oat lager, which is quite nice. Mm-hmm. And this guy says, would you like to try this mead? And I said, I really don't know anything about meads, but of course I'll try anything. And he said, frankly, this is a very difficult to get mead, and I got it for this. I think it was his girlfriend, maybe his wife. I don't know, but
This is considered the greatest mead in the world.
Yes.
It's a fluffernutter banana mead.
so it was a Pips blueberry mead.
Yeah.
And-
cool.
And I had it, and I thought, this is actually, it's very, very, very sweet.
Yeah.
But there was some balancing acidity that kind of made it interesting. And then afterwards, Tyson told me, that's probably one of the most sought after bottles of liquid on the planet. And I kind of thought, it was good. It was good. But, and I'm not saying anything bad about the people at Pips or anything.
yeah.
It's just more like the whole really sweet genre confuses me.
I think it's really good for bottle shares. This is my theory, and everyone chime in, please. I think it's really good for bottle shares and events where you get a glass with about that much, and it packs so much flavor into one little finger's worth in your glass.
I mean,
it just goes bang.
That is the Chicago pour. I mean, that's the Chicago pour.
That's the Chicago pour, baby.
Okay.
I've got one bottle. I've got 30 people. What are we going to do with what's left over?
So, this is liquid that wasn't really ever designed to be consumed other than in large groups, basically.
I mean, I don't know. I think some people will dome it.
My favorite time to bust out a mead is like, and obviously if you're in like a club or something, you need a lot more occasions than this. But like after Thanksgiving dinner, you just ate a big meal. You're with a bunch of family and you're sitting around watching like the third football game of the day. Like that's a really fun time to drink a mead. Substitute that with any like kind of cold weather family gathering after dinner. It doesn't have to be a holiday. Those are times where those are like my favorite mead occasions. But like, yeah, mead is a year-round thing. It's a lot different. Like it does not hit the spot outside at all in the summer months. Like it just doesn't do much for me there. But
there's some lighter ones that are carbonated and stuff like that I think can be nice.
But
those are not the ones. Those are very
15%,
different than these than the ones that ascribe to Andy's formula. Andy's rule. What is that again? What's your formula?
The Chicago pour?
R equal.
Well, the Chicago pour. I mean,
I meant your bottle cap formula.
Oh well, I mean, if infinite amounts of flavor, you need infinitely little liquid, right? So I mean, It's just going to be it's all correlated. I mean, you don't even have to taste it. I mean, it's just near you. If it has got so many bottle caps, and you don't have to, you just be like, I was around it. I mean, that's like the reality.
Greatest experience of my life.
It's already 3 bottle caps. I even haven't opened it yet. It's amazing. Yeah. So
that's true.
Someone told me it was rare.
Exactly. It's 3 bottle caps.
It was infected. It's 4 bottle caps.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that it is real. I mean, I think like beers. Somebody said stunt beers or whatever, and then we went through this with a lot of the high end breweries. They sold these 750 milliliter bottles for $30. They have a ton of flavor. Was it easy to make that? I mean, I've done a lot of adjunct beers. There is nuance, there is skill. It's rare to taste something where it's like, wow, I've not tasted that before, because sometimes when you add peanut butter, there's only 2 ways of adding peanut butter. So you've tasted the 2 ways of adding peanut butter. How do you add chocolate? Well, there's more nuance. There's coffee and stuff. And I think, I mean, I don't know if those days are over, but people are obviously experimenting with. I think mead is a great one with the high alcohol. It drives a lot of flavor. Honey can have a lot of expressive character that works with adjuncts. But I think we're kind of maybe past. I mean, I don't know if we get after things open back up and people are at events again. And I would like 2 ounces of mead. I mean, that's great. That's where I want to hang out because of the alcohol content, because of the sweetness. It can be quite cloying and things. Yeah. And so yeah. I mean, I make fun. I mean, I make fun of the Chicago pour, but I mean, yeah, maybe you only need 1 or 2 ounces of something, and it's good to share. So
yeah. Hey, we kid because we love. Speaking of which, if there's not a better metaphor for this show, it's that our producer and technical whiz just took a can off the table, went under it, put it directly over our surge suppressor, opened it up, and it poured over, and then you took it back and set it on top of your phone. So,
well, he's protecting the equipment, so it's on his
exactly. I mean, you moved it to be directly over the surge suppressor, but it's surge, Well, I think we've got. I think the intro. We've got a 40-minute intro, which is about that's pretty much par for the course right now. Why don't we let's do one actual topic, and then maybe we can take a little bit of a break. We haven't done the show in a while, so we're probably going to be talking about things that Andy you've been talking about for quite a while, but we haven't mentioned on the show that Stone won their lawsuit with Keystone. So there's elements of this that I think are worth talking about. I think it's interesting. I mean, they won $56 million, which is certainly nothing to cough at, and they're going after more and stuff like that. And the whole idea was that I guess Keystone's big thing was that it just said Stone on the can, right? Is that right, Doug? It just isn't that the
there's a face of the can, like if you're looking at it at 2D, it just says Stone. I think the key is around the corner. You know what I mean? But if you're looking at a picture of it or putting it on a box, they could turn it away where it just says Stone. And the key is somewhere like above it, but the can itself just says Stone.
Right.
And it was like a marketing campaign and a packaging refresh kind of together.
And wasn't there a guy named like Keith Stone, and that was that whole thing too?
That might have been a prior, an older one. I don't think
iteration.
That was this one, yeah. Because this was like a 2017 thing. That feels like a
1990.
You're thinking about the college days. No,
yeah, exactly.
I remember what you're talking about.
That's bitter. That was the bitter beer face back in my day. America's least bitter beer, Keystone Light. So I think one of the funny things is, well, here's my question is, does this have any effect on craft beer? I tend to think no. I mean, what do you think? Andy, what do you think?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things you can unpack with why they sued them and what's going on and trademark violations. I mean, we always talk, I mean, you've talked about it on the show multiple times. Every show covers like, oh, well, this guy ripped off this guy's intellectual property and they got a cease and desist and this. I was really I was a little shocked that they got any money to begin with. I kind of thought this was I wouldn't call it a specious argument. I mean, is their font the same? Like Doug said, in the right light, when your head's turned the right way, is that a Stone label?
I was kind of surprised they won too.
I mean, basically, to me, I feel like that number is like, okay, every legal entity made money. It's the lawyers made the money, and no one sees a drop afterwards. And so, what does it say for craft beer? I mean, if it's never been real to anyone, the larger corporations are going to fight tooth and nail and put whatever legal stuff they have in front of them to defend it, and they can lose. I mean, so my day job is in electronical engineering, and I mean, this happens, right? Billions of dollars are spent fighting, the pixel on a Samsung phone versus an Apple phone and stuff, and so they get into the minutia. Should you be worried as a small brewery? I don't think so. I mean, I think just we're like a lot of the lawsuits said, we're operating in two different spectrums, right? One is a light beer marketed to a lower end cost sensitive person, and Stone is higher end craft beer or middle to high end craft beer appreciator.
Obviously, like to be put down. They like when they like to be said that you're not worthy and that you're
I mean, that's that's the longer discussion about where Stone, the trajectory of the breweries and the branding and stuff, of course, right? Because they basically make Keystone Light now. Oh, sorry, They that's the thing is premium brand, value brand. I mean, I don't know. It was always a reach. I'm just blown away they made any money. I think it could have been $50 million. It could have been $1 settlement, right? It could have been like, yes, you won. Technically, you won, and that's fine. See you later. So.
And the funny thing is now they've immediately been sued by Sycamore Brewing for their "Keep It Juicy" tagline, which is great. I mean, does not surprise me, especially kind of with Stone. Doesn't really surprise me that they're kind of. It just goes to show how difficult it is to kind of walk the line, I think, in some sense. But there was an injunction that a judge put in place, so they can't use the Keep It Juicy. And Sycamore Brewing, I think, in their argument said that Stone has been bullying people for years over IP and trademark and stuff like that. Just thought it was kind of funny. I mean, to me, I don't really care. I don't really think it means that much. But one of the things I did want to bring up was actually, I don't know who, someone at Roaring Table added to the outline. I'll just read what you guys said. Just, why, or if that's okay. I mean, or we could make it anonymous. We don't know who. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe it was a rogue element. Right. Why does trademark infringement in general and IP theft in particular seem to be so alluring to so many small breweries, particularly those focused on hypier styles? And is it driven by consumer desire, brewer short-sightedness on legal issues, or something else altogether? We've talked about this on the show before, but I think it's worthwhile. It's always fun to dig this beat this dead horse. This is kind of a fun one. So,
Lane had that. That was Lane's question.
Oh,
so I'm out of the loop a bit, I suppose, but I do notice. So, for instance, the 25 Plato pastry stout was a
had a picture of Mega Man on it.
It was a I probably shouldn't say anything about, but it was another brand on the label, basically with one letter change.
I'm shocked.
And so to me it just feels I don't do that. I choose to come up with made up names because I just don't think it is very creative. And I think that my theory is that if your label is a ripoff, then maybe your beer is too. And so why don't you go to the trouble of, it doesn't take much. You have a few drinks and you come up with a name. So I don't understand why this is such a prevalent thing, but of course I'm not the demographic for this. So, but I am curious, if you know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I certainly talk out of both sides of my mouth there too, because if it's clever enough, I kind of chuckle and be like, that's pretty funny. And I think puns and stuff like that have kind of always been part of craft beer. It seems like, but sometimes it's literally just, this is what it is.
This is their label and their brand and everything. I was in advertising, so I know a little bit about the idea that this stuff is really valuable, and of course you have to defend it. That's the idea about trademarks is if you fail to defend it, you can lose it. So anything that's any real brand is going to have to vigorously defend their marks. So I guess these guys figure, well, it's so small, nobody cares. But to my way of thinking, it just seems like, man, somebody's going to get hammered by this at some point, and they're going to make an example out of. I think that happened a little bit with even the guys in Wakanda, right?
Oh yeah, with the.
But I mean, that was just a
Snicker,
teeny tiny one.
I don't remember what that was. It's candy.
Some kind of. No, it was. Sidelot got in trouble for some candy bar thing. Mm-hmm. And, we're probably talking 25, 30 cases or something. But
right. At that point, it's just like, oh, sorry, it's all sold. We'll never do it again, something like that. I guess the interesting question to me is the part that you were asking about. Is it driven by consumer desire, brewer short-sightedness, or something else altogether? Which I don't know if we've specifically talked about that part of it. Like, what is it driven by?
I think it's a combination of laziness and like lack of a brand to build around or understanding of how to do that. Like coming up with your own thing and letting that evolve through your own cans with an artist or however you come up with your scheme.
Like our
for your
brand
labels.
Is that like, oh, now it looks like the Oreo label. Now it looks like this label. Now it looks like that
and it becomes
label.
like a fraud scheme where you dig a deeper hole and it gets harder and harder and you have to keep outdoing yourself. And then those things eventually stop working or you run out of things to do. On my way out of Rip Brewing, we headed to a Trader Joe's to pick up some groceries and I thought I had seen it all. And there was a giant display of these 16-ounce cans that were a ripoff of Prince tennis balls. And it said pint. I posted a picture of it. Maybe you could put it in the show notes. And I was just like, we're that far down the rabbit hole of what can we make this can look like? And I was,
that was
like,
clever.
That
one was clever.
I thought it was just like, I just kind of like rolled my eyes. I didn't think it was clever. I just thought it was like, unless you're like, for some reason trying to make this smell like the smell of tennis balls, which isn't a bad smell, but it's not a smell you're dying to consume. But I was like, I don't get the connection at all. Like tennis.
I think that there's just like a novelty to it, and people are attracted to this idea of, it's like, I mean, we love that you guys like the pub ale, and quite frankly, the pub ale and our hazy IPA are the two most popular things in our brewery. But for the most part, what we see in our area is people like kind of gimmicks. And so that's a gimmick, and so it's going to attract someone. And so they
Well,
like a
give me
gimmick
some
or an
examples
experience.
of like of a gimmick that somebody would like. It doesn't have to be an exact example, just like a hypothetical example of like, well, if you did something like this, people would really like it. Like, what do you mean by a gimmick?
Well, I can only talk about our April Fool's joke that we did a few years ago where Lane like took his smoothie. This was like in 2018, I think. And he was like, I made this beer with
It's a protein shake.
It was a protein shake. And
With blended up cauliflower or something in it.
yeah, but you said that it had like 15 boxes of children's cereal and like gummy worms and just this whole thing. And we were like $60 a 4-pack. And people were like, oh my God, we need to have it. Seriously. I mean, it was probably the most likes we ever had on
But
Instagram.
now you can't do that because everything is already.
Well, because everyone's already done it.
Every day is April Fool's. Every day is April Fool's, right?
Hey, there's a beer name. Hey, someone TM that real quick, please. Every day is April Fool's.
So like I see two different versions of this. There's like if you make the Lucky Charms ripoff beer and there's Lucky Charms in it, at least the label is connecting to what it is. With this tennis ball thing, I was just like, I wasn't like mad. I don't like actually care. I was just like, tennis balls. It just seems so far off the grid of like what you're connecting to. And like, it's just like when you do these things, there was a Lucky Charms beer that was all over the news because this was a while ago when there weren't as many of these things. And everybody remembers the Lucky Charms beer, but nobody can name what that brewery was. And that's the dangerous thing with this is, do you want to be known as the tennis ball Prince beer, or do you want people to know the name of your brewery? I'd rather people know the name of the brewery. And that's the dangerous path you go down if you begin relying on these too much. It's not that you couldn't do one because you just have an idea that's just like too funny, too good to not do. Again, these things really don't bother me, but these are just like my observations. And some I see, I'm like, oh my God.
They don't bother me, I think, if they are done in the spirit of kind of like jest and maybe if once they're leaned on too much and they be like, oh, we have to go back to the well, as you were saying, Doug, like we got to go back. This is what people expect from us. All right, what other, childhood treat can we make our label look like? I mean, it's just tired and it's not funny anymore.
So kind of think about this, or how I think about it, and you make like I think I agree with everything. In general, it's like Doug makes a lot of sense, right? It's we have a new beer coming out. How do we talk about it? How do we relate to it? Because beer, there's an age gap, right? You don't even think about it till you're in you're 8. I mean, I would imagine you don't think about you're 18 or 19, right? So there's no preconceived notion. There's actually a thing I will maybe mention about that may change with these non-alcoholic beers and stuff. But to go forward with that idea, I mean, you have to lean on something, and I think it comes from, there's a lack of creativity. It can generate some hype, but in the end, if you don't have this organic brand, there's only so much intellectual property, and if you lean on intellectual property too much, you will get in trouble. I mean, you mentioned, people have getting sued, but everyone gets a slap on the wrist, a C&D, a cease and desist, and okay, stop doing that, please. Okay, we'll never do it again. Sorry, and then that, but. What do you do after that? And I think I was thinking about who has done both, who's been both ways. And I think the only one I thought of was Weldworks. Weldworks has its own brand, its own ideas and stuff, but they made like a whole milk stout once. And I'm like, it had Oreos on it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why did you make this? Like, this is insane. Like, it's just so outside of their scope. And I'm gonna have to go find the label to make sure it actually has Oreos, but I mean, it had Oreo connotations, right? So I'm like, okay, fine. So, and I have buddies around the corner, they make beer that has, arcade games on it and stuff. And that's, 10% of the beer they sell, right? They'll just do this. They love that genre of stuff and everything. So in the end, no, there are people that keep it going, but then no one knows you for who you are, right? If you're a brewery, if you're a small brewery, and I think we're going to talk about, declining in breweries and sales and stuff. It's like, there's going to be a time and place where you just can't rip these cans off and sell them for $20 and have a cartoon character on them. Like, no one's going to come into your brewery unless they want to drink your beer. And talking about this whole, how much of your beer do you drink? Like 2 ounces of some crazy, cereal beer. They want to have a pint, hang out and stuff. And so it goes a lot of ways, right? Nostalgia, drinkability, sustainability, all that. So homebrewers, all these guys, I know a bunch of guys in LA, they're not even in clubs. They're just their own 2 or 3 guys. They call themselves like XYZ Brewing Company, and they have their own brands 100%. And now they've started to create their own breweries, right? So they've created these brands from literally nothing. And it is possible, right? There are places to explore in that.
Right. It's interesting. Didn't Jay Wakefield kind of do that? He started his own brand as a home brewer and then went pro, and has now kind of gone. Now he does definitely do some. I don't know if it's IP theft, but he does haterade and stuff like that, which is it's kind of interesting. But
and everyone, I think everyone like art, everything is like from there's inspiration and then there's literally theft, right? There's these things, right? So like I'm inspired by this, like, hey, I like Orval. I want to make a beer like Orval, but I'll make it here. And how do I think about Orval, or how do I taste
a
Orval?
Rotting carp is on it instead of
rotting a 3-eyed carp is on the label, right? And there's Sears Towers in the background, right? That's me. That's my inspiration and that's how I appreciate that beer. It's actually when it's inspiration, it's about appreciation, not about just literally making a buck because I know you really love Count Chocula. That's the difference.
Yes, exactly. Well put, Andy. I have a question. So I'm drinking this Scamper Wagtail. So you name, and forgive me because it's probably an obvious answer. So you name some of your beers after birds? Is that the deal?
It's not a bird.
It's a made-up bird, though.
It's a made-up bird.
That's not an existing bird. That bird, as a youngster, I always enjoyed naming birds fanciful names. So all those names are birds that don't exist.
Learning a little bit about you. Okay.
Yes. So
interesting pastime.
That bird does not exist in the ornithology guides, but
Got it.
In my mind, it does.
The Scamper Wagtail, and this is a golden pub ale, so it's like a golden.
Yes, that's a made-up name.
It's also golden. Yeah,
but it's kind of true too.
Delicious.
Yeah.
It's
thank you.
Really, really good. But the question I have is, what's the starting Plato on this beer? If you had to guess,
that's probably about 12. 12 Plato.
Just like to put that out there when we're talking about having your finishing Plato of 25 beer and the starting Plato.
Right,
of
that's
this.
a big difference, isn't it?
Big difference.
Yep.
Yeah. So that other beer must have been exponentially better.
Correct.
This started at
Correct.
6. What did it end at?
That's like so Tyson showed me it's like a 4.6 or 4.8 on Untapped, which I know we don't have time to discuss. And I did listen to your Untapped one. I don't get to listen to many podcasts, but that was a good one, and I liked it. But
Did it make you feel better?
No, I still have some rage, but
Darren inspired rage.
Yeah, Darren Rage. That's the guy who totally.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I'm sure
just
there's-
say yes.
Okay, yeah.
Guys who really will
Yeah.
tank a beer, but out of ignorance, probably. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot
We
of-
had one
there's a lot.
of those with
we have Darren's.
Yeah, we have Darren's. He came in, he had the cask beer, and he said, it's kind
Too
of
warm, not
too
carved
flat.
enough. It's like perfect. We've done our job.
2 out of 5
here.
bottle
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. Just like I had in England.
Yeah.
2 bottle caps. Why don't we take a break? Serge, are you ready for a break? I am. We'll take a few minutes, refresh, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more. I think we got some letters and some other stuff. We'll come back with the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by Lane and Beth of Roaring Table, as well as Nostradouglas and Andy Carter. You need a nom de beer. We'll figure that out.
It's Dr. Lambic, actually. That's the
Dr.
nom de beer.
Lambic. Okay.
Yeah. The friends call me Dr. Lambic.
Got it. Okay. Well, I'll have to figure out what I call you then. Anyway, so we were thinking about what we were going to discuss, and Dr. Lambic suggested that he wanted to pick the show up. He thought it was a little too dour and wanted to bring up some good news. So we're going to talk about how beer Q1 2022 is down big, but among that, craft beer is down the biggest. And among that, local is down even more. So just interesting. this is kind of a trend. If you listen to the show, this is not something that is new, but it looks like the decline is accelerating. If I remember, Nostradouglas, I mean, you predicted this quite a while ago. I think one of your predictions for like 2020, I think, but then the
I think in 2015, I said that in Q1 2022, we'd be down 10%.
I don't remember that one. You might not. Must have been a different show you were on. But I think one of your predictions was ouch. I think it might have been the end of year, like 2020 or 2019 or something like that. And there was some interesting stuff here. I just kind of highlighted a few things. So craft beer dollars are down and are increasing. They're accelerating, as they put it. Hazy IPAs are they're falling less quickly, but are still falling. So hazy IPAs are falling.
They're basically barely hanging in there.
Yeah. It's interesting that some of the bigger brands seem to be doing better relatively. They were saying some of the national craft brands, which surprised me because those guys have been getting beaten up brutally lately by the local guys. And it looks like local really took a thumping as well. I think they kind of broke it out by different categories, and I guess local was the smallest. Although, I mean, geez, poor Dogfish Head, they were down like 22%. I mean, they got destroyed. Founders as well. But I mean, the one shining star was, again, Nostradouglas, Athletic. Yeah, Athletic was up. They were
they're up on a very small base.
Yes, they were the number 2 growth leader, trailing behind New Belgium, who is not on a small base. But so interesting. So beer's down. Beer's been down for how many years has beer been down? Nostradouglas, I mean, decade, something. I mean, a long time.
All beer, yeah.
It's been down for a long time. But craft being down more relative than the other beer, that's new. And I think I'm curious what you guys think. Is this like a canary in the coal mine sitch? Is this kind of a just portend, worse things to come, or is it just like, it's it is what it is, but not that big a deal? Andy, you said you had some stuff that you wanted to talk about. I'm sorry, Dr. Lambic.
I don't know.
Not a medical doctor, just a doctor.
PhD, not MD.
Not an MD in Lambic. No.
Mr. Lambic, PhD.
I have a few. It's a few different tangents, and I think I would love to talk about them because I think this is kind of if industries are cyclical and beer is hot or beer is cold or we want mixed drinks. So, in front of me today is a couple local beers, homebrew, of course. But there's another beverage I'll talk about in a second. But it's if beer is down, and honestly, to talk about the numbers you talked about, like the one that blew me away is New Belgium, because they have been so off the radar.
Yeah.
So off the radar, right? And what's funny, and I brought this up. I brought this up like a year ago to someone. I just thought it was so funny because I watch a lot of. So there's a website called Twitch, and there's gamers, right? They play games for 8 hours at a time, right? You can't do Twitch for 30 seconds or TikTok. You have to play for 8 hours, because what you do is you watch them play, and then they're talking, but they obviously have sponsors and paid advertisements, and there are so many
Voodoo Ranger stuff, right?
There's so much. It blew me away that they tapped into it.
Yes,
and then just drove it, and I'm like. And now maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I mean, obviously gaming is a big deal. It's not going away anytime soon.
I saw on TikTok these like two kind of like bro-y dudes. It was like, how they have podcasts that are more together, have like a studio with videos where they show like little clips. Nostradouglas has told me I should do this, and I kind of laughed at him at the thought of me being able to pull that off. But and they were just talking about like what they had been doing, and somebody like offhandedly said like, oh, somebody was drinking a something, and he said, and I was drinking a Voodoo Ranger, and then it just went on like it had nothing to do with it, and I was like, that's interesting, and it didn't until that moment. You just said Twitch. I was like, I didn't think anything of it other than, oh, that's interesting. I Voodoo Ranger. That's an interesting kind of mention. And now it's like, oh, that's paid for, and you don't have to disclose any of that because it's
exactly. So that's kind of like, so I mean, I don't have a personal objection to TikTok. I just don't care. But I do watch a lot of Twitch. Different games, of course, but it's there. So that's one thing. That's why the New Belgium thing makes sense. So, is this? I wouldn't call myself a beer temple apologist because I don't think there's anything to apologize for. But I love the podcast, of course. And but pre-pandemic, the concept Chris brought up, the big squeeze. Right, we're finally something where we're all right. Well, we've have a lot of breweries, and there's going to be a crunch. And when I was pre-pandemic or at the pandemic, I'm like, oh, I was like sweating bullets. Like all my friends are going to close, and no one closed. And 20 goes by, no one closes. 21, no one closes. Well, 22, everyone's like, well, my rent is due. I have no money. I'm closing. So honestly, everyone around me just closed. They just like,
oh, really?
Like, I have a lot of friends in small breweries that were like, that's it. See you guys later, for rent reasons, for just I can't make the numbers work anymore, and that was it. So yeah, this is going to be the moment of what do we do? Because and so I kind of came up with a couple things like you can't open a brewery without food anymore, all this stuff. So yeah, I mean it's a tough bag, I think, right now just to have a brewery, and I don't know what where that ends up. I mean I think anything, the beer's not going anywhere. I have friends opening breweries. I mean there's also another kind of segment of all this is the BA numbers, where how many breweries are opening versus closing, right? Openings and closings, and 22 will be an interesting thing where.
Well, that was a big Nostradouglas prediction. Total barrelage.
I feel like you're really pumping me here on
things
I never said.
No, that's not true.
I'll take it.
No. You didn't you predict that barrelage, total barrelage would decrease? Come on, you predicted that.
Yeah, that was a while ago, but yeah.
You looked into your... Yeah, but like time has been warped by the pandemic. Yeah. So, there's been a lot of cash infusions and stuff like that going around. So I'm trying to help you out, man.
No, I love it. I'm just trying to stay humble here.
Yeah, it's hard. But I'm sorry, Andy. I totally lost my train of thought. But.
Well, I think the only thing I was going to kind of bring up around this, maybe like you said, this is obviously dour news, but the positive or something like so. And this is what I throw back out to you guys is the concept. So NA beers, obviously athletic. I never said I was long on athletic. I don't say I'm an investor. I'm not an investor. I just drink a lot of athletic beer because I really like the beer. I mean, I again listen to your guys. Mm-hmm. Someone said, "Hey, put some athletics in your mix." Try or NA beers. NA beers not just to not drink. NA beers is to have. Right, great. But I will, and there is no camera on this podcast. But I will. I have a hop tea in front of me. Mm-hmm. There are seltzer or let's call them sodas or something that are not alcoholic, not fruited or whatever. And I thought it was interesting because I drink these. I like these a lot. They're actually too expensive. I should make them at home, but I'm lazy, so I buy them at Whole Foods. But I had a friend who drinks beer, and they enjoy beer, and they like craft beverages, but they have a kid, right? Or they have some kids, right? And then they tried a Lagunitas hop water, and they liked it. They tried a hop water or a hop tea, and they liked it. So this concept of these products that kind of blur lines, right? They don't have alcohol in them, of course, but I obviously have read a lot about beer and brewing and stuff. Like hops don't have many uses other than beer. And now you have another use case. Like this is a whole nother market segment, and it's not soda. It's not Coca-Cola. It's not, full of sugar. It's not full of crap. Soda's already dead, right? No one under some age, like even like what's
Although I saw hot flaming Cheetos Mountain Dew the other day. So I don't know if soda's dead.
Isn't Baja Blast a thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're at Taco Bell at 12 in the morning, I mean, yeah, you're gonna get loco. You're gonna get Baja Blast. But I mean, during the day, you have a hop water or top tea, and so I just think there's these new. It's not beer, but it's not not beer. It's beer adjacent, and so
There were a bunch of young, I call them kids. They were of age. They were here this Saturday, and they were part of this. I'm gonna get the name wrong. It might be like Mandala. It's like, the old fashioned, like that game where there was like a little wooden cup with a ball and a string on it. You try to like catch it. It's like an advanced version of that where there's like a spike and multiple cups, and they do all these little tricks. And I don't think you're physically able to do it unless somebody else is videoing you doing it, based on what I've seen. And they were all here. They kind of took the place over, and a lot of them were drinking a lot of beer. I think because they were young, and young people, I guess, they drank per capita more beer than I was expecting. But there was another big portion of them who were getting NA at the bar and also getting NA to go, and then getting high in the parking lot and doing this thing while drinking NA beers, and then coming, just like getting another NA beer, and then going smoking weed or vaping. Really, they were vaping. Let's be real, they were vaping. There was no flames, and I just thought it was interesting that it was these are the people who are drinking, I guess, NAs, because they were asking about NAs and what do you have NA. They didn't yet really care. They thought it was cool that we had multiple of them. They thought that was like a sign of something neat, and then they would pick one. Yeah, I guess maybe younger people are just not as in. Well, I've known that for a while. Younger people are just not as into drinking beer. Right, Doug?
That's true.
Yes.
That's true.
That's what I thought.
A couple of things I want to add. I think this is like super complicated, and I could go on, so we can break up some of my thoughts and go around the horn. But like on the positive side of this, we got to remember that these stats that we're getting are to-go beer. This is beer sold in a package. This isn't taking account the on-premise, so bars and restaurants and venues. And if you think back Q1 2020, we had a mostly normal quarter until about the last maybe three weeks or so. So, and then in 2021, Q1 was when things were, at least in Chicago, were really shut down. They opened back up right around Q2 of 2021.
2021 or 2020?
2021. We were very, very shut down. I remember our brew pub closed the entire quarter. Same with a lot of other places. So the only place to consume beer was in the off-premise, where all this data is being accumulated. So in that period that we're now comparing Q1 2022 numbers and saying we're down 10%, we're comparing it to a time where in Chicago and in New York and in a few other big places, not everywhere, the off-premise where all this data is being accumulated, that was where all the beer was being sold, literally all of it. And so there's some really bad numbers, and these stats have to have some caveats to them. That's kind of like the positive. But I do think there's definitely something to the story here, and I do think craft beer is certainly down. One of the things that concerns me is that if you go in a major grocery store here and start looking at all the bigger brands, Revolution, Half Acre, and on down, everybody, every 6-pack, 4-pack is at least $1 more than it was 4 months ago. $9.99 is now $10.99 at least. $10.99s are now $11.99s. And the people buying these, in a lot of cases, their wages are not going up 10% like the price of these beers are. And that's not to say somebody going in for one 4-pack or one 6-pack isn't still going to hesitate and still buy that 6-pack. I'm not saying they aren't. But I think a lot of times where people were buying 2, they might see that, hesitate, maybe only buy 1. I think there's just a little bit of less beer buying happening as a lot of wages are not catching up to the way the prices are rising. It's happening. If you go buy a Potbelly sandwich that used to cost you $8.50, it's now going to cost you like $11.50 for the same sandwich. Like there's other things where it's hitting way harder than beer. Like beer in a way, like I know at Revolution, I can say we had to increase our prices of our beer. $9.99s are now $10.99s and so on. But we're actually losing on the deal. Like the cost of the inputs, the price of all the freight to bring things in, we're actually having to find other ways to try to make it up. The margin on the beer is that even raising our prices, where it's hurting us. We'd rather it be the old way. We'd rather be charging less and paying what we used to be paying for raw materials and cans, and especially the freight to bring it to our brewery and all that. So I think buried in all this, I think that is one of like tons of factors going on, including Andes, including age shifts and what people are drinking. They're all like eating at this. And one other thing I want to add with the New Belgium, I just want to make a point on New Belgium. They are a special kind of brewery. They are pouring all of their resources into national accounts where this data is being collected. Their emphasis is on those places. Chris, I'm guessing you don't sell a ton of Voodoo Ranger here?
No, none.
Exactly. And so, but
we don't carry it.
But your data is also not being collected in here, and so the places where this data is coming from is where New Belgium's focus is. And I think even more importantly, New Belgium is selling a double IPA that's like 9-point-something% for $8.99 a 6-pack, and I think they still are. And anybody who does that is going to sell a ton of beer, and they're going to grow. So most people. Everybody in this room cannot afford to sell a double IPA for $8.99 for a 6-pack. So that's like the caveat I had. Of course, it's like, of course they're growing. They're selling an $8.99. And that beer is the number one selling craft beer in the country. A double IPA that's 9%. And it's because it's $8.99. And that's what's like, especially over the last year or two, making me, I always knew a lot of people out there shopped based on price to ABV, the deal. I didn't realize how many people that was until I saw this brand in particular just go through the roof. And I think that's why.
It also could be, I mean, there's a few things there, I think. I kind of want to go back to what you were talking about before, but with the Voodoo Ranger thing, there's always been like that thing, like a Golden Monkey was big on that and still is on the East Coast for a long time. I think that's always been a segment, and I think craft has, how craft had been for years kind of breaking into different doors in the cooler. Like we're going to go from this cooler to the multi-pack cooler. I think they're going into the, single serving high ABV cooler now too, like the Steel Reserve and stuff like that, and it's also just like a new market. I'm curious if more large breweries, or to use an old term, crafty, because the breweries I'm talking about, those crafty breweries are going to start going after that too, because because you can also probably get away with having it a stronger beer than even a Steel Reserve or something at that point. No, it's going to cost a little bit more, but maybe, like you were saying, that value proposition of having it be, double the alcohol, well, not double, almost double the alcohol, certainly 50% more alcohol for a little bit more money may help. And then also skewing to a younger audience who's looking for that value proposition as well, which has been really, nobody has really done that except for people like, Four Loko and stuff like that a long time ago. So that's very interesting. I hadn't thought about that. But prior to that, you were talking about, the caveats of, year over year and how everyone was home, and how that's changed a little bit, and also that craft beer is certainly down, and you're not saying it. You certainly weren't saying it that it wasn't. I'm curious: is all alcohol down off premise, or do you happen to know, or is it just beer?
I know that. Are you talking about like wine and spirits?
Wine and spirits.
I don't. I honestly don't follow that enough. I can tell you that all the big Chicago,
either.
all the Chicago like top 20 brands, if we singled out just like the state of Illinois, like the Anti-Heroes, the Daisy Cutters, the Maplewoods, and that are all in that would make up that list. Like nobody's doing great compared to last year.
Sure.
Like everybody's hurting, maybe not to 10% extent, but nobody's got anything to brag about right now. It's all down.
Right. And then, man, I'm trying to remember. There was something else, and then you had that point about the Voodoo Ranger that really kind of interested me. And maybe it's just lost forever. So I was going to say I'll listen to the show and then remember it, but we all know I'm not going to listen to the show.
You know how to find me.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I guess we'll see how it goes. I guess
What do you think of the inflation part? Like
the inflation part. That was that's what. Thank you, Doug. You knew what it was. So the one thing I will say that is going for craft beer is, I guess there's certainly a rising tide will lift all ships, or however that goes. But beer has also been, especially craft beer, has been a affordable luxury, right? And my hope is that when people have to tighten their belts, if they want to splurge a little bit, they're going to find room for craft beer. I would find it hard that so many people would have to tighten their belts so much that despite the fact that they want to drink a, what's the name of that made-up bird again? Scamper Wagtail, that they just have to drink a Schlitz. Like, I just don't see that happening. I can see them buying both.
I have so it's early days, right? We usually do these at the end of the year when we predict something, right? But I'll give you the early one for when we're talking about this we're dancing around a topic of cost and consumer demand. Maybe we'll do it now, and then we'll reevaluate my prediction. But this kind of is the fake bird in a coal mine of the end of the
It's a scamper wagtail in a coal mine.
The scamper wag in the coal mine, or the scamper wag in the coal mine. Let's go coal mine. Coal chute.
Oil chute.
At the end of the Reserve Society, the bottle club type thing, right? Where it's expensive, it's a certain consumer. It's only going to cost more to make now, and we don't want to support it, right? We'll put our energy somewhere else. So is this it's obviously it works for a lot of breweries. It's some of my friends own breweries that $300 to $600 prepaid buyout is a great deal. But is there enough people, consumers that want that in the end, or is that the first thing you cut? Hey, I want to still drink during the year, but I'm not going to put up the $600 kind of thing. So I wonder if that's maybe the first, scamper in the coal mine of this.
Scamper wagtail. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my hope is that it will always be something that's affordable. I mean, beer has always been kind of an every person's drink, and I mean, I think there's more effective alcohol delivery, ways, but it's more social. It's about kind of being out there, and my hope is that that the slightly more expensive stuff will have a value proposition that is worthwhile, because it's still a matter of a couple bucks. So I'm guessing we're all hoping and counting on that too, because if not, we're all, the scampers or whatever Andy said. I don't want to use that as the...
We'll come with another
canary in the coal mine.
Canary in the coal mine was sick.
We'll just use that. I'll just pick something out of the air. Okay.
There you go. Pick something out of the air.
Yeah.
I do think something has been interesting that I've noticed is that there's a lot of new brands from across the country that I didn't see normally around here. like Jay Wakefield just came in, I believe. And I'm just wondering, is that because they're having a hard time selling in their markets?
I've noticed I'm sorry, what's up, Doug?
No, I was just going to agree. Go.
I have seen the exact same thing, and I've had breweries reaching out to us like, what distributor would you go with? We're looking to expand. I guess it could go two ways. I guess they're doing well, and they want to expand. But I will say that the expansion has that people have anecdotally just asked me about, and it's been several breweries, have been a much more measured approach than during the big boom days where people were just like exploding into markets, like, yeah, we're going boom, 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 and they're just growing all over the place, and they have a big launch team, and bang, bang, bang. It's smaller brands looking to go into specific markets with a plan of support. So I've seen it as a much better, I guess, realization of how it's going to be, but I have no idea about the reasoning behind it, which is kind of what you're getting at, which is I hadn't thought of that. I was like, oh, this is a good sign. Things are distribution is expanding again in a more moderate way. But yeah, it's
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seems odd to me to see. I'm just seeing stuff, on Instagram pop up like, oh, this is, from out of state. It's from here. It's from, North Dakota, South Dakota, and it just seems odd to me. But I don't know why.
I think a lot about Uncle Tony's quote from was it episode 6? Mm-hmm. When he said that like all breweries are points on a curve.
yes.
And I think about that and I take that into other aspects of business and life as well.
Right. The only difference between Anheuser-Busch and Sierra Nevada is 100 years of success or something is what they said. But anyway.
And it's like, I think about like who's going to have a hard time right now and who's not. And I think breweries that are kind of like in phase 1 and are still very like shiny and new and are the new hotness, it's not that they're so much going to be affected right now because they're so small. They're not like, they don't have giant batch sizes to sell. Like they're kind of just in that early phase. It's the breweries that have been around a while, have matured a little bit, aren't new anymore, and still are cool, but they're trying to do more things, and the beer's sales it's not that they're horrible, they're just like slumping a little bit. And then they're looking for the levers to pull, which is...
They're looking to have to pull a lever probably for the first time.
Yeah, let's send some beer to Illinois.
But if you don't mind me asking you, and this is probably, a little heavy, but the model of capitalism that we've lived under our whole lives is growth, right? So you grow, and then it's like, I want to stop growing, but... because I want to reach a comfortable level. But really what happens is you have people say, you got to keep growing. You have to, we got investors. Oh, now we're a publicly traded company. We have to grow at all costs, and we have to grow infinitely, basically, or else our stock prices are going to crash. And so, of course, at some point that's not feasible just on the level of thermodynamics, right? But what is your take on the idea of... How do you deal with the idea of like maybe we only grow this far, and does that mean if we failed because we didn't keep growing, or is there a way? I mean, there obviously are businesses that stop growing and are still in business, but it seems like our model tends to be towards growth, and if you slow down or stagnate, that's failure.
Yeah, it's tough. It's something I wrestle with now because, when I joined Revolution, we were growing and we grew my first few years there. And then as we started to slow is also when the pandemic hit. So it's like two things were colliding. Like everything was kind of slowing already, and then everything came to a screeching halt for different factors. But we were going to run into that anyway. If we didn't start expanding or branching out a little bit, we weren't. And the dangerous part, I think you can get away with not growing, but then all of a sudden you're making sacrifices because every small business has too many people wearing too many different hats, and everybody's always aspiring to, wow, I would love to not have to be doing the beer labels, the accounting, the compliance work, the label submit, and all these things. I'd love to someday sell a little bit more beer so that we can get an extra person in here doing that. If you stop growing, those things that you aspire for to make everybody's life easier and get out of startup mode and get into like nice work-life balance mode, they become very hard when you stop growing. So that's my desire to grow, is my desire to give all my coworkers who I love chances to still do more. Obviously, people are naturally just going to move on. Different people are going to move away or change careers or just want to make a leap immediately somewhere else, and that's fine. That's all healthy. But in general, you always have this other crop of people who want to continue growing in the company, and you want to be able to give them a raise every year, and you can't give them a raise if you're not selling some more beer. So that's how I always strive for growth for those reasons, so that I always have a bigger budget to spread around for things like this.
All right, and just to this, I mean, I'm not anti-growth. We would like to grow, actually, but like just the laws of thermodynamics will prevent a certain. At some point, you cannot grow exponentially, right? There's no more carbon left on the planet to continue to grow. So AB InBev wants to grow. Like, so does that mean at some point all businesses are doomed to failure because they just can't consume every atom of carbon on the planet? I mean, and this is more of a philosophical thing as opposed to, I guess the question is there any size that's big enough where you could say, oh, this is good? Or do you just have to grow because there's always...
I'd like to, thanks for bringing that up. It's come up in the past, but that's, I think that, it's almost become like a religion to grow, or like it's something that you must do. Someone who is thinking about how to do that is, as someone who's doing that right now, I think about that quite a bit, and I think that you don't necessarily need to grow, but you need to get into a position where you can, I think you have to set your people up really well so they stick around for a long time. Like back in the day, everyone had pensions and they had all these things and they were taken care of, and like people don't have that anymore. And I think it's kind of trickled. I mean, you said let's get philosophical, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So now, like I think the agreement has been broken, and now people are looking to everyone's looking to move up. Everyone's looking to grow. Everyone's a CEO of one. So your employees are looking to, good for them. They want to grow their careers as well. And I think it's just this thing that's just what it's like right now, personally. And we are so fortunate here. I mean, we just posted that we have a part-time position opening, which I don't know the last time we've ever posted about that. I mean, it might be like 7 years ago that we posted about it. It's crazy. So, but it's you just got to take care of people. What's up, Andy?
No, it's Dr. Lambic. Sorry. Anyways, this is something. It's so interesting because I think about this at work. So. It's not my day job to do beer. It's my day job to make electronic devices and semiconductors and transistors and stuff. But I think a lot about this. Like, my industry is very successful. There's always growth. We talk about growth. Moore's law, growing every 18 months, 12 months. I call it Moore's manifest destiny. It's just money, right? Just save, spend more money. It'll always work, right? But back in the day, and I have colleagues that retired that had, like you said, pensions. They had this plan in place, right? They could work here for 30 years and then they'll be fine. That doesn't exist anymore. And now it's people in my age bracket, the millennial age bracket. It's rise and grind. It's get in their job, get more money, get paid more. There's no guarantees, right? Startups, unlimited vacation, leave, do whatever you want, right? And so there's some. I'd say a little philosophical, little political. There's tea leaves going. Like I think that's coming around a little bit. There is much more activity in terms of workers' rights and unionization and things. That's kind of my side, where there's so much money. It's actually absurd amounts of money involved in these transactions. Right? Beer being a manufactured product, right? Really a lot of high touch labor, especially in craft brewing. Chris mentioned retaining employees, right? When I go to the Beer Temple, because I go like twice a year because I don't live in Chicago, but when I go. I want to know that the people there are taken care of, that they're going to treat the beer right. They're going to always give me that shot of Malort at the end of the night because they want to be there, right? They're not just there to get a paycheck. They want to be there, and that's culture, and that's kind of the reason I stay at my company at work. It's not because the money is good, because it is fine, right? It's median or whatever rates, whatever it is. But I love being there. I love hanging out with the people. My management treats me right. They listen to me. They respond to me. And when I want to do something, we do it, right? We do it together collectively. And even though it's a Fortune 500 company or whatever, right? They respond, right? If you're in a big company and they don't care about you, of course you're going to leave. You don't give a shit. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of thing, right? I don't prescribe to the leave your company every 18 months. I prescribe to have a good day, get paid correctly, and if that doesn't work out, don't find something else. But there's other. It's a balance, right? It's a middle ground, right? There are reasons to stick around, and I have friends at breweries. They're getting paid well. The breweries take care of their employees. The places I go to, the places I drink at, they take care of their employees because they know making them leave. They learned on the canning line. They sat here for 18 hours and got the canning line dialed in. There is no dissolved oxygen. Why would I want that person to ever leave this business? Like, what can I do to keep you here, right? That is your key employee. It's going to cost me so much money to let them leave, right? So,
I will say one more thing is a lot of the stuff that like curmudgeons like me and perhaps Lane bemoan is all these wonderful esoteric breweries dying out and that's just natural, I guess. Things kind of live and die and stuff like that. But I do think that the end result of constant growth is at some point you get to, like you said, AB wants to grow. And how do they grow? They grow through acquisition.
Mars. They have to sell to
Well, no,
Martians,
I mean, they
right?
grow through acquisition. They buy another brewery who is growing, right? They buy Lagunitas, they buy Goose Island, they buy Founders, they buy, whoever, and so like the consolidation, at some point would hypothetically become a singularity. I mean, that's the end of it. Like somebody wins.
This is capitalism, I believe, right?
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
But then, of course, it just all breaks apart and starts. It's just a sort of like, it's just sort of the carbon cycle on the planet, right?
This carbon thing, you're into it.
Yeah. But is it naive? Is it naive to start a small business with the idea that if we could only sell X amount of things, widgets or beer, or whatever, we could pay ourselves a living, we could have our little house, feed our dogs, and our employees would be happy, and we'd be okay? Or would be there somebody saying, "Hey, you gotta keep growing, because if you just are just doing what you did last year, you're already failing." And that's totally a question. I don't know.
To me, it just comes down to, do you have a plan that will keep those employees happy? And that can come in different ways. Like, growth can come in different ways. Like we spend a lot of time not focusing on how can we sling more barrels, but how can we be more efficient so that less beer goes down the drain? There's always something we can buy that's a few $100,000 that in 2 years starts saving us money because the yields of our beer go up. Not exciting things to talk about, but things that can help but these are things that can all of a sudden, with the investment up front, you get a loan on it. And as long as even if you don't have the cash, you can get the loan and you pay for that slowly. The yields of your beer go up 3%. All of a sudden you've got this much free beer, and this is actually like a no-brainer. And our bottom line just increased, even though we're not growing. we've become smarter. We've made the smart investment into our operation. We've done a lot of that, and there's still lots more of those things to do. We're looking at a lot of them right now. But so it's not that you always have to look to be growing. I think you always have to be looking at how you can be even smarter and worry about your margins, your bottom line, and make sure that's healthy so that you have the resources to keep your employees happy.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. And then the other thing I'd like to throw in, since before we're done, is I think that, is it possible that there's just a lot of people who do not like beer? Like they just don't like beer. They're not into drinking beer. For sure. And you know, to me, it's been liberating to just sort of accept the fact that there's a lot of people who you know, when I'm spinning the sign that says, come into Roaring Table, and doing all the tricks I do with that, they look at me and they just say, yeah, I'm not interested. It's just not my jam. And at first I was like, oh, really? You know, but now I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so basically what we're trying to do now is just focus on people who like beer, and specifically the beer that we make, you know. And
very old school.
It's it's liberating though, because I used to beat myself up about all this, like, well, why don't people, you know, and it's like they don't like it. So okay, let's focus on the people who do, and maybe, you know, I don't know, sell them a more expensive bottle every once in a while or something like that.
Or have them come to you, you know, one more time out of 20. That's fine, you know? Or, you know, increase your prices with cost of living or do other sort of things. I mean, it seems to me
I just
worth
feel
trying.
Like from a very teeny brewery's perspective, it's kind of liberating to realize that, like, some of the problems that New Belgium, or, you know, successes as well, we don't participate in their successes, but we don't have to deal with their problems of needing to appeal to, like, so many people who are driving through Nebraska and getting gas in the middle of the night and say, oh, I guess I'll get that $8 pack of 10% IPA because I'll get wasted better because of that. Like, that's not our market. So, you know, we can hand bottle stupid Orval things. You know,
right.
so.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I think that craft beer is large enough now that it's stratifying, and it's stratifying in multiple ways. I think there's the guys who want the novel. Well, novel, I guess, could mean a lot of different things to a lot of people, but there's people who want the strong beer for a good value. There's people who want the crazy, wacky beer because, oh my gosh, that's crazy that I'm going to drink a beer that tastes like Pop Rocks.
It's like the novelty.
Right. Then there's the novelty of having a historic style. Oh, this is what people in Victorian times or whatever. Like, novelty is, you know, can be a lot of different things. Let's not joke that, you know, mild isn't novel. You know, so it's just it's large enough now that I think the next step may be being comfortable in being okay with craft beer drinkers not liking what you're making, because it's big enough now that it's like
we actually have a lot of experience in that, so we're ahead of the curve on that one
on both sides. Because I mean, the folks at this establishment are very big Roaring Table fans. I mean, we talk about you guys a lot. We talk internally about you guys. We like what you guys are doing, and I don't blow smoke. I mean, we just are. So there's people who are way into it, and there's people who are just never going to be into that warbler, whatever. So, but I'd never had that beer in my life, and I just drank it, and I was like, yes. I was looking around and held up the can and
we
said it's
definitely
really good.
appreciate that, and I think
Well, it's not. I'm not saying it to like get accolades. I'm saying that I guess know your audience even within craft beer lovers, because there's some people who love pips and there's some people who love golden pub ales. I mean, pips
I think
maybe more, but I don't know.
For sure, but like just for me, it's just been such a learning process to just learn how to let go of this desire to please everybody, and so what our struggle now is just to find enough people to make happy that we can. We want to make a living doing this. We're looking for those people, but I think we spend a lot of time fretting about people who were never going to be coming to our party anyways, and so now it's just like. We want to sell beer to you because if you like it, we can maybe sell it, right?
Hopefully. Well, I do want to say that thanks to Dr. Lambic, I have this to say to Liz, who had mentioned that she'd invested her life savings in Dustcoin. We're not going to mention any more of your letter, and I've got a handwritten letter from Kevin from Beaver Street in Bristol, PA. This is going back into the envelope. We just don't have enough time. Again, completely because of Dr. Lambic. No time for that. They'll have to go to another episode. We're inundated. We're going to have to do another letter show. We're going to have to make these things regular. But thank you for all the letters that you guys are sending in, because we've got several handwritten letters and many electronic letters to share with you guys. As always, those the addresses are in the show notes. But I think it's about time, isn't it, Serge? Yeah, Serge is given. He's nodding knowingly. His fading fingers are itchy. He's looking to fade. Can't wait. Tried to fade out a couple times already. And I was like, just hold off, Serge. Just give me a few more minutes. We're talking about capitalism here. Please. So we'll have to get to the letters on the next episode. Hopefully it's an episode that would be appropriate for letters. It isn't one where we're, doing like a book review or something like that and then bust out letters. But
I'm still waiting for the Beer Temple Poetry Hour.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Poetry Slam.
Poetry Slam, yes.
Poetry Slam. Yeah. No, it's coming. It's coming. Edmar's going to host it. It's going to be great. I want to thank everybody. We're going to go around the horn in a little bit, but I wanted to thank everybody for the spirited conversation. It's been, I said it was going to be an old school show, Serge, and it has been. It's been an old school show, kind of minor derailments and all. So I want to thank all my guests, Andy, Lane, Beth, and Doug. And does anyone have any final comments that they'd like to say? Andy, you've got something coming up that you're going to plug. People are going to be so excited when they hear that something happened 2 weeks ago.
Well, you'll hear about the Homebrew Festival, Southern California Homebrew Festival. It happened probably 2 to 3 weeks since you're hearing this, but look forward to next year. So we will announce at the event. We'll do one next year.
I heard you guys had a great time.
I'm going to say we had an awesome time. The weather was perfect, given the weather satellites I'm reading right now.
Yeah.
And I drank a lot of great homebrews. But all year round, 365 days a year, you can find me at either the Full Pint. We do beer news, podcasts, and honestly, the thing I care about more about, sorry, Danny Full Pint, but I care more about Brewlosophy, which is a homebrew beer blog. We do beer experiments. We do a bunch of fun stuff there, so check us out there.
And Full Pint being a old school like pillar of craft beer. So I highly recommend anyone who listens to this show check out the Full Pint, the podcast, but also the website, because a lot of the information that we get for some of these segments comes from the Full Pint. So thank you very much, Andy.
Anytime.
I do want to plug something. I am going to be, if this gets up in time, next Tuesday, May...
No chance. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, May 3rd. If anybody's going to be at CBC, I'm going to be on a panel discussion with friends of the show, John Hall and Andy Crouch. It's going to be me and Marcus from Weathered Souls, Todd from Good Word Brewing, and Ashley from Bierstadt. doing a panel on beer trends, state of the industry, all kind of good stuff. So
Look at you.
We'll be at Fulton Brewing at 4:00 next Tuesday. So you should come by, have a beer, and listen to us talk beer.
Is it going to be on Twitch? Or is it?
I know
it's
it's
not
on
even
their-
happening if it's not on Twitch.
It's on their podcast thing,
good.
but I don't know about a video. But
Oh, it is going to be a podcast then.
it's a podcast. It's a live podcast recording, also like a live.
Oh, it's going to be
audience. It's a live audience panel discussion. Like
John
this.
Hall, Andy Crouch podcast.
Yeah, they're hosting it.
Got
so
it.
They're
The beer edge.
The beer edge is
Beer
moderating
Edge.
it. So it's
Look
me,
at you,
Marcus,
Andy.
Ashley,
You
and
got
Todd.
it. All right, cool. Lane, Beth, anything you'd like to say?
I
before
will
we get
plug
here?
our new beer that
Yes.
we just delivered tonight.
FG.
in
Oh,
our
no.
in our GTI to the Beer Temple, and we've got Tuba Solo, which is our flagship hazy. We've got Scamper Wagtail, which is our new Golden Pub Ale, and we have the Heller Rauch, which is
Oh, wait, you dropped that off?
yeah.
Didn't even try that one.
Did we? Was that in the group?
You blew it.
That is Ryan,
You
our
totally
home.
blew it.
Surge.
No, sorry.
Surge.
That is Ryan, our head brewer, his recipe, and we did that in collaboration with Riverlands Brewing. So, but you can get it at Beer Temple.
There you go.
And I just like to ask, what's Twitch?
Yeah, there you go. I think that should probably be the final comment of the night. Good night.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted.